I rewrote actually what.
Are you ready, Tim? Okay. We are called to order this meeting of the Miami Special Utility Authority for Tuesday, March 18th at 5:30 p.m. Mr. Gerald Dyer is here to say the invocation for us, and then join me in the pledge afterwards.
Precious Father, we thank you for this privilege of being here tonight. And we ask, Father, that your blessings shall be upon everything that's discussed, every action that's taken. And Father, every heart and every mind will be in unison. That every person, Father, will seek your mind and what's best for the city. May there be no ulterior motives or strife. But in all things, may you receive honor and glory through it all. We lift up our nation tonight. Especially, Father, we pray for the plane that's lost and the hundreds of people aboard. We pray, Father, for our servicemen and women. And we pray, Father, your protection upon them wherever they are. Guide us now. And help us, Father, to be all that you have us to be. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4 is public input and unscheduled personal appearances. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that wants to speak to the authority about any of the agenda items? Anybody that's not already scheduled to be on the agenda? There being none, item 5 is consent agenda. Staff is recommending items 6 and 7 for the consent agenda. If there are no objections, may I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve items 6 and 7 in the consent agenda.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
McLean? Aye. Schultz?
Thank you. Item number 8, request for special dispensation beyond approved policies on utility bill by citizen Bobby Munson, 408 E Northeast. Come on up, Bobby.
I didn't hear you a while ago. Do I go here?
Yes, please. And would you state your name, Bobby?
Bobby Munson, Miami, Oklahoma, 408 E Northeast.
Okay. What's the situation,
Could
Bobby?
you put your mic up a little closer so people in the audience can hear you? There you go.
Kind of right there.
Yeah, thank
There
you.
you-
I could have talked louder if you needed me to. Well, I had this leak that was in between the meter in the house, and we had all the ice and everything where the ground was frozen. And when it thawed out, I mean, I just had a river everywhere. But anyway, I got it fixed on a Friday night, and then I came up and brought the paper up here. But I guess I was supposed to have a permit, but it was after hours on Friday. So anyway, my bill's pretty high. And anyway, I haven't worked for the last year because my daughter's had liver failure, and I've just had a small income coming in. So I was going to see if I could get some assistance on that.
Okay.
I
Is
appreciate
there
it.
somebody from staff? Can you tell us the details, please?
Yeah, she did have the leak repaired. Turned out after we spoke with our engineering department, we did not need an inspection or a permit because it was not a large enough job. So we were able to go ahead and do the leak adjustment per policy. The leak adjustment we were able to do was $802.34. That's what we were able to take off of the bill. The total balance for the water and sewer from that leak was $1,543.92. So after we took off our $802.34, that still left her with a balance of $741.58.
Okay, and tell me how you arrived at the 802 number that you deducted. What does that represent?
It is the half of the additional water and half of the additional sewer, above and beyond what the normal
Over
usage
the
is.
norm?
Yes.
Okay. And recently, when we've had situations like this, individuals come before us, you've done this, and then I think we've, on most occasions, made an additional adjustment of another 20, or half of the bill, which would be another 25% of the total. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
25% of the remainder, 50%,
50%.
which,
Yeah, I think it's 50% of the remainder.
of the remainder, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so everything's been fixed. And the remaining bill's $741.58.
Yes.
So if we were consistent in adjustments, we would adjust the bill another $370.76. Does anybody on the council have any thoughts one way or the other?
That's generally what we've been doing there. I think that's pretty consistent.
You'd be equal.
Okay, so Bobby, you only get a one time, you only get one mulligan on this, you know? Okay.
I don't need another one.
Okay, okay. So do we have a motion then to adjust the Bobby Munson's bill an additional $370.76, which would make the final bill $370.76? That's your understanding of
Yes.
the math? Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve that, Mayor.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call please.
Johnson?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
She'll make
Bobby.
the adjustment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to hear about your daughter. Hope she gets better. Item number 9, request for special dispensation beyond approved policies by citizen, say McLean, last name McLean. Is that Rihanna?
Yeah, Rayana.
Rayana, okay, Rayana. Can you tell us what happened in your situation, Rayana?
Well, I got a high bill of $1,300 for my electric
Okay,
because the heat pump on my house went out and it was running on electrical strips.
mm-hmm,
He says that he's got it fixed, but when we turn the heater on, the meter still just keeps on spinning.
he is who?
Ken Clark, my landlord,
Okay,
I've talked to him about maybe, helping me pay, but he said it's none of his concern. He has nothing to do with it. And from what it's looking like, my electric bill is going to be another $1,300 this month.
Probably will,
And
because it's running off heat strips.
yeah,
And 100% efficient, but it's the most expensive heat you can heat with your home. I just want you to know that. Is your landlord a licensed mechanical contractor? Did he do the repairs himself, or kind of help us with that?
he sent out someone else to do the repair, but he was only under the house for 5 minutes, and then said that he was done.
I had an electrician of our own come out before he ever would do anything,
Mhm.
because he refused to do anything, so we paid an electrician to come out and tell us what was wrong with it, because we first thought it was a mistake, so we came up here and they told us it was not a mistake. And so they actually came out, changed the meter out, put a temporary meter on, and then they told us the amperages were running really high, and so it was probably something in the heat pump. So I called her landlord, the owner of the home, and he said, well, it wasn't his problem for us to deal with it. That's when we called out our own electrician, and he's the one who told us that the defrost pump was completely burned out and needed to be replaced. So then I called Ken Clark back up, and he said, well, I'll get around to it whenever I get a chance.
Do you own the heat pump, or does your landlord?
The
Landlord.
Okay, so I would think that would be some of his concern then.
But he said he will not help me with it.
Okay.
And she's already paid $300 on this $1,300 bill, because her past bills have been $250 to $280, so we figured.
The bill's legitimate, and it's not gonna go down till you get the heat pump fixed.
And
where it
she's
runs.
currently looking for another place to live, because he's refusing to fix that or the toilet or anything that's broke at that home,
Okay, thank you.
so. I'm her mother, by the way, so I'm
Okay.
helping out. She's 7.5 months pregnant, I'm just helping her out.
Good deal.
well, this is an awkward situation. when there's something like a break or a failure, we want to help the resident where we can. If you have defective equipment and it's repaired, as you can see when we talked to Ms. Munson after the repair was made, then we tried to work with her on the bill. I understand you've had an electrician out, Mr. Clark has had someone out also, but apparently the meter's still running at full speed, we'll say.
And that's one of the reasons why she's moving, because it's not getting fixed evidently. So she feels like she needs to move out. She's on $700 a month Social Security. You can't pay those types of bills.
Doug, you got any idea what the approximate cost would be to fix that? Without.
Well, what was that pump thing that you said?
The one I had come out said it was the defrost pump. He says it keeps it, when it's in cold weather, it keeps it from defrosting, so there's no heat.
I'll tell you, my background is heating and air, so there is no pump on there, number one. There's a defrost timer that allows it to go through defrost, and there's sequences I won't bore you with that go through that. But what you're running on, again, is no different than going and buying an electric heater at whatever store you shop at. It's 100% of the electricity that you're using is converted to heat, but it's very, very expensive. Heat pump typically will draw on compressor and fan maybe 25 amps, and you're probably running 75 to 100 amps.
When they checked the amps, they said it was going from 23 amps to 97, 98.
So it's working like it's supposed to. Unfortunately, you need somebody out there. There's some reputable firms in town that can fix that problem. And they'll probably, you'll have to just have this thing with your landlord, see if he's gonna cover the costs, I would think, or move out, whatever your options are.
Jeff, you have any thoughts?
Well, I don't know if I have any thoughts that will help the customer in this particular situation, but we've gone back and looked at the records on this particular resident, and we've had since 2004 10 accounts at this residence, and 4 of them left without paying their balance, and which meant the ratepayers across the system absorbed that $2,400 worth of charges at this property. This is a recurring problem. I've brought this to you before. We've had this difficulty with certain properties throughout the community where we have a track record of extremely high bills at a particular residence and a healthy.
Ladies, why don't you have a seat for a moment?
A healthy experience of customers who are unable to or unwilling, whichever the case may be, to satisfy the bill of the property. We've been exploring this problem in context of the AMI system, and one of the vendors we had mentioned to you some time back had the ability for us to put certain properties on a prepaid meter, where you actually, just like a prepaid cell phone, you charge up the meter, and then when you get in a situation like this where a tenant is in and they don't know what the history's been on the piece of property or what the track record's been, it runs out quickly. They're going to know right off the bat that there is a problem. I was curious if the tenant had consulted legal counsel.
We did. We talked to David Crutchfield, who advised her not to pay March's rent until he fixed the problem with the heater and the problem with the toilet. And so she has not paid March rent.
Right, and did he give you any other legal advice?
No, he said that was as far as he could go on it, that we needed to talk more to the owner and more to the electric company and see what we could do.
So without paying the rent, then your legal counsel advised you to pay the utility bill instead of the rent?
Right, and he said to pay a portion of the electric bill, which we put $300 on it.
Okay. Amber, what is the account status at present?
Right now, they did have another bill just printed this morning. So the past due is $1,038.84, and the current balance is $1,635.68. Their most recent bill that was printed today was for $596. The bill from last month was $1,223.
So it did go down,
It went down quite a
Right.
lot, yes.
but that probably may have been more with the weather than anything else. So the rent, you applied $300 towards the account?
I guess the issue for me is that we were here last month and the month before with a lot of residents that had problems with their bills and the amount of their bills. And some of them could have been the same as far as mechanical malfunction. There was no discussion of whether or not the landlord was cooperative, which is an issue for the tenant. But as far as the authority, we denied those requests. So I don't know how we would treat this one any differently. I mean, I'm certainly empathetic, but if we treat this one differently, then I think we'll have all the people that we turned down last month
Right.
here again.
If it pleases the chair, I think staff's recommendation would be, because of that very factor, that you don't really have discretion tonight to do anything about this, but would request that you direct staff to come back at a later meeting with policy revision to look at these unique properties that we're discovering that we have specific problems with outstanding accounts, so that we can come back in and propose some type of a policy change that protects the ratepayers from these situations in the future.
Now, in this particular situation, Brianna, if you're going to be moving soon, and I don't want her to be precluded from being able to get service because of this particular situation. And I know that there were a couple of other instances where we worked with an individual on a payment plan, and I know we have the average payment plan that she could go on if she's not already, and that would help some. But I'd also, again, just want to make sure that if she applies for service somewhere else in 30 or 45 days, she's not penalized in this particular situation. I'm not sure how we handle that.
What we do with transfers, when someone's wanting to move from one address to the next, is we do require the account balance paid in full.
Okay.
We have looked at the average monthly payment plan. I believe it was a little over $600 was the average monthly payment plan, because she's not been there for a full year, so it's not an exact average.
Right.
But she's still eligible to be on it.
Yes.
Given the circumstances here, Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose that we ask the customer to meet with the city attorney and discuss the situation with the city attorney, and we will fold that back into our recommendation we bring back to you at a later date. So in the meanwhile, until the city attorney is available, that we in essence toll the account, and basically we won't do a disconnect on it. We'll continue on, but we will also keep in touch with the customer to make sure that we just don't continue to acerbate the current problem by continuing to run up the bill. We'll keep a close eye on it. But we'll come back with you with a policy recommendation, and hopefully we might be able to come up with some form of relief for the customer.
And Rihanna, as Councilman Weston said, it sounds like the bill has gotten better, but I think that's just a function of weather, and I would encourage you to invest some money in getting someone, if you're going to be there much longer, and getting someone out there to take another look. I don't know. You're in a difficult position, I understand. But that's the best we can do for you right now. Get you in touch with the city attorney and hopefully work with your landlord on a solution. Okay?
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
No action on that?
We don't need specific action. We'll
Okay.
just unless there was no objections to staff's recommendation to bring back a policy initiative, and we'll do that at your next meeting.
No objection.
Okay, item number 10, request for dispensation by citizen Kelly Nelson. Is Kelly Nelson here? Well, that makes that one easier. As per the policy last time around, if a resident is not here, we don't deal with the issue at all, so that one will pass on also. Item number 11, another new business, if any, which has arisen since the posting of the agenda. Any new business?
No new business.
Item number
Mr. Chairman.
12, staff reports. Your reports are in your packet, and staff is present for questions if you have any. Item number,
I had one, but I think I got it. Go ahead.
okay. Item 13, trustee community announcements. Any announcements? There being none, item 14 is going to be a brief executive session, probably 10 minutes, which means 20 really. But it should be a brief session. We're going to stay here for that session, so we'll, after a motion, we'll ask you to clear the room briefly. And Doug, can you read that?
Getting new eyes this week. I moved to go to an executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B1 for the purpose of discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of any individual, salaried public officer or employee, to wit, Jeff Bishop.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Weston.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Schultz.
Aye. Okay.
Good stuff.
We don't have to come out of executive session.
You declared them
We
out
did
at
that once,
5:59.
and it kind of messed me up. Okay, we are back. We are on item number 14, excuse me, item number 15, which is to approve the amended contract with Jeff Bishop. Just for the benefit of our viewers, all we did was change some language as far as when the renewal date was. All the other terms of the contract remain the same, and we're glad that Jeff is going to continue on with us. So do I have a motion to approve the amended employment contract with Mr. Bishop?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Weston.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Item number 16, approve Waller and Company service agreement. Jeff?
Yes, sir. This is a communications company. I met with them last week to discuss some upcoming messaging challenges that the city and the trust was going to have. This contract is very simplistic. It's an hourly rate, assuming a 20-hour-a-week rate. We have the funds budgeted. We would bring back our task orders when we assign them some task order. We'll bring those back to you for approval of payment. But this just initiates the initial engagement with the firm. This firm came recommended to us by our state relations company, Capital Ventures in Tulsa. This is G.T. Bynum, who is also a city council member in Tulsa, had done work with this firm with the city of Tulsa, and they came highly recommended. So staff is requesting authorization to retain Waller and Company for communication purposes.
Okay. And Jeff, let's talk about the compensation part again for just a minute. Is there a base compensation for the retention, or
It's estimated that 20 hours a week is what we estimate the services will take.
Okay.
And the rate schedule was included in the agreement. The principals, I believe, was $225 on down with the different associates and stuff. What we would do is it would be something very similar to the consultant agreements we bring you from FBB.
Right.
And we'll manage it on a monthly basis. But our goal is to keep it under 20 hours each month.
And so if we engage this firm and we're not happy after 60 days, what happens?
We can do it. There's not a, well, you know, off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly what the language was.
Not a defined term.
Yeah, it's not a defined term. I think it's, if you like them, we keep them. If we don't, we get,
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay. Any other questions for Jeff or about the agreement?
No, I have none.
Okay. have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Johnson?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. Thank you. Item number 17, future agenda planning. Is there anything that any of the members of the council need to make sure we have on the future agenda, or Mr. Bishop?
No items, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. When are we gonna be talking about the budget process? Will that be in our council meeting? Well, I've seen the brief schedule. Will that just be on the council schedule?
It's in the, I believe the schedule's in your Dropbox.
It
Okay.
is.
It is?
Yeah, it's right there, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's all.
But as far as the SUA, there's no action items in the near future on that. It's just the council, right? Okay.
We
Okay.
generally just run that as workshop format with the council.
Okay. So then the last item is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. Thank you, and we are going to move right into our city council meeting for Tuesday, March 18th. And item number 1 was called to order. Item number 2 is public input and unscheduled personal appearances. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the council that's not already scheduled under an agenda item? There being none, item number 3 is presentation of, item number 3 is going to be tabled until our meeting next Tuesday. Item number 4, update on traffic signals and announcement of public hearing on March 25th, 2014. Mr. Bishop?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We had, at a previous council meeting, had some discussions about some warrant studies that were conducted by the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, and also a consultant that the city had hired for 3rd Street, is it D? Chuck, help me, the truck route, is it D?
Yeah, D Street.
D Street. We had indicated at that time that we would have a resolution brought back to you for your next meeting, which has since come and went, and we weren't able to get that on your agenda. Since that time, there was some media coverage. We got quite a bit of confusion in the community. Somehow it got presented that I was proposing to remove all traffic signals in the entire community. That was not the case. We're talking about 3 lights. Those locations being at the corner of A and Steve Owens, and at 5th and Main. Because of that attention, we have decided that it would be prudent at this point to go ahead, even though there's no legal requirement for us to do so, but for the council to have an official public hearing on the disposition of those 3 lights. We had intended to include that on your agenda for your meeting next Tuesday, the 25th, and we're hoping the media would be so kind as to get the word out that there will be an opportunity for the public to be heard regarding these 3 lights. And again, just for clarification, 3 lights, just 3 lights, not any other lights other than those 3.
I thought there were 4.
What's the?
There are 4, but the recommendation is only for 3 of them to be discussed for elimination.
Okay, and the 4th light is located where?
Steve Owens in Maine. It's the light that we again had trouble with this weekend. It was out for a while. We have conduit issues there, but staff is not recommending any changes to Steve Owens in Maine. That there would still be the 1 light.
And the 2 lights on the A streets. And where was the 3rd light?
The 3rd was at 5th and Main, would be right at the Civic Center
out here.
entrance right out front of our building.
Okay. And I think that's maybe where some of the confusion came in. I had a citizen call me and was under the impression that we were taking out the lights basically from Brahms all the way to Steve Owens in Maine. And so I tried to explain that was not the case.
Right. We wanted to just make sure that we're very clear to the public. We'll be posting on our Facebook page. We'll be posting it on the city's website. Hopefully the media will also reiterate that it's just 3 lights. And anyway, it's just 3. And I almost feel like I'm in a Sesame Street routine now. But just the 3 lights, and then we will be providing an opportunity for the public to officially comment on it.
The lady that called me said she saw something, a television news story about it, which I thought was interesting because there weren't any television reporters here that night.
We did do a television interview
that's what
the day after, and again, we only indicated in the interview 3, but there may have been an impression made that there were more lights involved, and there are not. There are just 3 lights.
Well, my recollection, if I remember right, I thought we was talking about the one on 3rd and Truck Route too.
We were, but we didn't get any clear direction from the council on it. When the engineer made the presentation, there were some issues with sight triangles, if you recall. And so we have not gone forward with any recommendations on any changes to the lighting on the truck route. Why these 3 are necessary for you to consider is that the financial responsibility for the lights is changing. It used to be shared between the State Department of Transportation and the city, 50-50, and because the traffic counts no longer warrant those lights being at those locations, the state will no longer assist us financially. So the decision that the council has to make as to whether or not you're going to bear the cost of assuming 100% of those responsibility. And as with most infrastructure, this is aging. They are going to require a considerable amount of reinvestment in these lights. So, for example, at Steve Owens, we're going to pour a new conduit under and rewire those lights. So, and the thought is on Steve Owens in Maine is that since the lights are very similar to the ones on A, we would be able to salvage the lights at the A's and use them for inventory to keep the light on Steve Owens in Maine operational in the future.
I think we have to recognize too, the state's guidelines have changed over time in the warrants, whereas that at one time there was enough traffic there.
Yeah, there
and
would
they
have to
did
have been
help
enough
us with
for
those, but they
yeah,
don't-
yes,
not
yes, sir,
anymore.
in order for them to be constructed.
And it's not our decision to change it, it's the state's guidelines that have changed.
This also then also allows the A Street south of Steve Owens to become 2-way traffic again if the council chose to designate those as 2-way streets. And that's a separate decision, and we'll present that at a separate date.
Okay. So, next Tuesday, there will be a public hearing on this matter. If you have comments that you would like to make, please be here. Anything else? Any other comments on item number 4? Okay. Item number 5 is a consent agenda. Staff was recommending items 5 through 13, as I understand it. 13 has been added to the list. And then I think that, Mr. Johnson, do you want to pull number 11 out?
Yeah, it's
Is that
request
right?
of staff, pull out number 11.
Okay. Are there any items other than number 11 that anybody wants to pull out? And if not, can we have a motion then to approve items 5 through 13 excluding number 11?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
Roll call?
Johnson?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. Okay, item number 11, renew horse barn lease with Horseman Association through June 30 of 2014. And I know we have a document here that has some changes to it. Neil, do you want to?
I'll let either Jeff or Jill
Okay.
tackle that one.
I'm going to delegate this to Jill since I'm not familiar with the changes.
Okay, we reviewed the contract today and found a couple of things that needed to be changed. One of them would be we're trying to get on any lease or any contract that we want to renew annually. We'd like to get them on a July 1st through June renewal because that's our fiscal year.
I'm glad you said that. I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. Well, you'll probably see over the next several meetings lots of these contracts being presented for review. So we're trying to get everything on the same calendar cycle to simplify things for staff and for the parties involved. So these changes are basically reflecting that, and then what else?
The first one, it'll go through, this one will just go through June 30th of this year, so
Okay.
you'll see it come again pretty quickly.
Okay.
For a full year. The other thing is we added back in from the current year's lease agreement, we added back in some language regarding property damage in the amount of not less than 100,000 per event.
Okay.
They actually provided us with their insurance coverage, and it's on there, but for some reason it dropped out of the agreement, so we added that back in.
Okay. And so there's a typo on
Yeah,
there.
there's a typo on there.
And you'll correct that, so it'll reflect 100,000?
On the 100,000, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've got the dates and anything else? That looks like just those two changes. So you just need us to approve this as to form? Has this been signed already for this year, or?
No.
Okay. So are we approving the signature, my signature, or?
You would just have to approve it, Your Honor. You're the default signatory.
Okay. So, do we have a motion to approve the revised contract?
Make a motion to approve the revised contract.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Weston?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. Okay, we are on item 14, approve OSU Extension Office contract and resolution to waive $1,000 cleaning deposit fees for the 4th grade agriculture thing. Kathy Inyart, this is back from last month, or last meeting?
I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I apologize for that. But I
Okay.
did review the video, or the whatever it is, and listen to the discussion you had. And as far as a hardship for the $1,000, it is because we are a nonprofit, and we have to follow OSU policy for us to write a check or to get a check. Either way, we have to follow OSU policy, which can be a drawn-out process and a lot of paperwork for something we're going to get back. And this is an event, as you guys discussed, that we have held out there for several years. And as with all events that our office and the Fair Board have held, typically we leave the facilities cleaner than we found them, as well as we do all the work. We don't require the city to do any of it. Even when we had events out here, we set up tables and chairs. Your maintenance staff usually pitched in and helped, but we didn't require that. And because of some of the new regulations, we have moved some events from city facilities due to the financial and the contracts, and coming to this meeting to get them approved every time. So,
So, Jill, this is just a memory test. We waived the usage fees last time, but we didn't waive the damage deposit or cleaning deposit. Is that correct?
Yes.
yes.
And
Yeah.
it was $1,000?
Yes.
I just didn't remember it being that high. Okay. And the process you would have to go through is submit a request to OSU.
And I would have to check, see if we can even use that. We can't buy flowers to send to anyone. I mean, we're just really strict on what our money can be used for and can't be used for. So if we have to pay that, this will be another event we will probably move. But we would like to continue the working relationship we've had in the past with the city. We are not the Fair Board, and the Fair Board is not us, but we work hand in hand, and we have, along with the Fair Board, have done a lot of the improvements that the city gains from the use of the fairgrounds. I don't know if this board is aware, but I have some figures from 2004 through now where the Fair Board has spent $91,229.55 Fair Board funds, that strictly volunteers. They do not receive, none of us that helped received any monetary benefits from any of that. That is the dollar figures that we have spent on upgrading the fairgrounds, from the 2 restrooms, the outdoor restrooms, as well as the indoor and the exhibition building, the guttering that's on the new barn that you all have several events at, all of the electrical in that barn, as well as redoing in some of the other barns, and various miscellaneous repairs. Also, at last month's meeting, you approved a goat show that is not the fair boards, but they are going to be using the fair board equipment, which includes pins and paneling and that sort of thing, and it's going to be an economic boost to the community, and we strongly support this event happening. But it's not just city facilities that they're using, it's also county property that we're just allowing them to use. And we've done that for several events, including a limousine show that's happened out there for several years now, dog shows, powwows, other events. And so we would like to continue that, and we know that there's this famous agreement supposedly between the county and city that we've heard about. You guys have discussed, I think. We have not found anything in writing about that agreement of using the fairgrounds, but we're trying to
I don't know anything about that part of it. I will tell you that I was talking to Councilman Johnson before the meeting when I saw the agenda item, and I said to him, you know, we have the fair out there every year, and the fair board has the fair, and we don't ask them to put down a deposit. And I do see you guys as an extension of them, no pun intended. I know you're not exactly the same entity, but
we work hand in hand, and we support them, they support us.
And so I can certainly see the rationale for that, where we are trying to be consistent
I understand
in the
that.
way we administer policies, and not that there aren't justifications for a deviation, but we're trying to be consistent, so we
I
don't
understand.
get accused of playing favorites. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this particular item?
This ordinance, was it created, I guess, to protect the city from monetary problems with the cleanup, and yet we should probably look at the policy?
Well,
Is it a necessary policy? I mean, if you're not going to have a policy and enforce it, why would you have the policy?
Yeah, we have we've had this this is an ongoing discussion we've had for the duration that I've been here. More of it about the Civic Center than the fairgrounds, but we have had a pretty good track record with all private functions that are for profit getting full fee and full deposits from them. The only exception that I think at the fairgrounds that's been done in the 2 years that I've been here was we had a promoter who was a known quantity, was proposing to do a new type of event, and they weren't sure whether it was going to take off. And as a incentive to get that event scheduled for future years, you gave a discount in that particular situation. But otherwise, in every situation, you've been fairly consistent when we're talking about a for-profit situation. It's not been the case on the not-for-profit, which, you know, has led me on a number of occasions just to say we should have a separate policy for nonprofits. In that scenario, though, we still sometimes have exposure to cleanup and expense, even when a nonprofit uses it, or even when the facilities are used for some benevolent purpose, like a fundraiser of some sort, all lofty and well-intentioned events. So we're happy to come back and engage you in a dialogue on a formal policy where we could, in essence, recognize the difference between nonprofits and for-profit events. I think we just did that yesterday with the MDRA.
Yeah.
So it is certainly something worth coming back and discussing it. But unfortunately, I think what you're going to find is that even when you come to the point of a policy, there's no policy that a good exception hasn't found at some point in time. So I think you will eventually encounter something where you're going to have, you're going to find yourself in this role of trying to adjudicate what is in the public's best interest. So I'm not sure I helped you any there with that, but it did bring it up to.
So we don't. Our current policy doesn't distinguish between profit and nonprofit.
Not in these two facilities. Now, I think what we have done is we have recognized a difference when we are a sponsor of an event. So I think when we're involved, like with the rodeo or like the basketball tournament here at the Civic Center. When we take on a sponsorship role, we kind of view us as being a partner in that facility, and we don't charge ourselves that fee. And I'm not sure if we run into that particular status in this situation or not. But again, staff doesn't really have a recommendation as far as what would be the appropriate amount that should be charged, or whether an amount should be charged at all. I mean, we're fairly ambivalent in that.
Would a track record of consistent cleanup after the event
Sure.
kind of play a
Track
part? We
record,
could,
sure.
And this is the first time we've been asked to pay anything. I mean, I've had to come before the board and get the fees waived, but was never mentioning of a cleaning deposit. We have to clean up a lot of times before we can even have an event out there.
Yeah, we realize it's the first time you've been asked. It's the first time a lot of people have been asked. We're trying to be as prudent
We'd be
as we
glad to
can.
have you as a partner. We wouldn't ask any money. We'd just put your name on everything we do.
Maybe the cheapest sponsorship we get all year.
Right.
We don't charge for our events. This particular event is an educational program, and we invite all of the schools in the county to the fairgrounds, and it's an agriculture-based Ottawa County commodity products that are promoted, and they learn about agriculture and where their food comes from, and so it's the schools coming to one location for this event, and we've been doing it for several years.
I make a motion that we waive the $1,000 cleaning deposit fee for this event.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Schultz,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
McLean,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like for staff to pursue a distinction between profit and nonprofit, at least something that we can look at and consider. And I understand there's always going to be the exception to the exception, but I think that some a little clearer guidance.
And I think
for all of us
Doug
would be helpful.
had a good point too. If we had some kind of history
Right.
where these events have cleaned up and stuff, I think that'd go a long way with us.
Can I ask another
Yes.
question? So we have the fair coming up. Am I going to need to come back?
I would say probably so.
You may
Sorry,
have,
I know that's
you may have a room full of people at that one, just
well.
because
All you're doing is coming back and asking.
I hope we're not coming off as anti.
No.
I mean, we just have some
they just want to
policy
know
issues.
why, because it is the fairgrounds. That's what it's called.
And you're asking for a waiver, and that's the process for now. So
But
come
we've
back
never
and,
had to before, and as far as the fair board is concerned. We've
Well-
always followed policy of getting on the calendar and making sure that whoever's in charge of the calendar this month, that we make sure that it's cleared. But
Well, the issue has been, for me, is like I said last council meeting, I'm not picking on nobody. I'm not picking on you either.
I understand policy. We follow a lot of policy.
But to me, it's not fair for the taxpayers to clean up after somebody's messes if they leave it. That's my argument.
and it has happened. In the
And
past.
I
It has
understand
happened.
that, but has it ever happened with the fair? It's an 8-day event that brings in thousands of dollars and has been the event that has made the fairgrounds what it is today.
And that's why I say Doug had an excellent point, bringing back past history of what these events
Which
have
is going to be many, many years of county fairs at the fairgrounds.
So your question was, will you need to come back and request a fee waiver?
Or whatever signed contract or whatever I'm going to have to do for the fair, some representative from the fair board to have the county fair this year.
The answer is yes.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
And tell whoever it is to call me if they want to call me before they come. So, did we get a roll call on item 14? Okay, all right, thank you. Item number 15, a waiver, what do you know? Approve fraternal order of police contract and resolution to waive all fees associated with after prom fundraiser for Miami High School.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Officer Hanson with the Miami FOP. Officer Dustin Hoffer couldn't make it today. I'm here today to ask you for a waiver of some fees. We're hosting a basketball fundraiser tournament. it's going to benefit both Miami FOP Lodge as well as us allowing to give back to the community. Miami High School After Prom Committee. Basketball tournament or game is going to be March 29th. It's going to be versus another city police department, Commerce Police Department, in hopes to raise money for both organizations, the FOP and Miami After Prom Committee.
Do you have an idea what the split's going to be? Have y'all talked through those details?
50-50.
Okay. And so what, Jill, do you have the details on what the cost would be, et cetera?
I have to look in your packet.
Okay, sorry. So there's 4 different line items. There's an admin fee for 20. There's a cleaning and security deposit of 200. The rental of 400 and material services of 120 for a total of 740. If we are consistent with what we did last month, we would waive all but the security deposit, since it's a community event. As far as the after prom part of it, the FOP is not a community organization. It is a fraternal order police organization. Any thoughts?
Christie?
Be consistent.
So, is coming up with the $200 deposit an issue? Cleaning
That'll have to
deposit.
go through a meeting, an FOP morning with our members and our board as well.
Okay.
When did you say this event was?
29th.
What was it?
On the 29th
Of this month?
of March.
It's a
Oh.
basketball tournament benefit and benefiting both our FOP Lodge through the police department and after school, or high school after prom.
So that's only about 10 days from now.
And Mayor, I can't give you a good date on our next meeting. It may be something we can push through as getting enough votes in without having a meeting. I'd have to get with the board.
Is this the first time this
Yeah.
event's been held?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we don't have a track record, really?
We're trying to do fundraising for ourselves, but still be able to give back to the community because we give a lot of donations out.
We have a meeting next Tuesday. Can you get with your organization and see if coming up with the $200 deposit is going to be an issue?
Yes, sir.
And come back and see us next Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right. Thank you.
Do we?
Go ahead.
Do you want to take any action on the rest of it, or do you just want to wait till?
What do you recommend? You want to waive everything but the deposit?
Right. I
Okay.
would. I'd make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. So you understand what we're going to waive all the fees with the exception of the $200 deposit?
Yes, sir. Would you like me to return if that is an issue, or if we can go ahead?
Yes,
and pay
if
it?
it's an issue.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Johnson?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Your Honor, just as a point of order, the agenda for the meeting on the 25th has to be finalized on Monday, the 24th, before 5 p.m. So if the FOP is going to respond back, the city would need to know no later than 5 o'clock on Monday.
We just need to know by 5 o'clock Monday so we can get it as an agenda item.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
to get back with you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Item number 15, update on contract with Peoria Tribe to purchase sanitary sewer system. Chuck?
Thank you, Mayor. Just an update, as we've talked in the past, the agreement that we'll eventually have with the Peoria Tribe for the sanitary sewer that will service the Peoria Ridge Golf Course and Country Club out there. A part of that agreement will be some exhibits Those exhibits, the plans and specifications, approved from ODEQ, Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, ODOT. We did get an email from the county. This line being outside the city limits, we need the rights, the permissions from different agencies and property owners to install and construct this line. Those items, again, will be exhibits as part of this agreement. Their consultant is still working on these items, so just an update that they're still working on the items for the ODEQ permit, ODOT. We got a email from the county, it's okay with them. There's actually 3 private property owners also with easements that be required. We're still waiting on those from them.
And is it the tribe's consultant that's responsible for obtaining the easements?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's all. Just information tonight, just
Okay.
to update you where you're
Any
at. If you had any
questions for Chuck?
questions.
No.
Okay. Are we on schedule? I mean, whatever schedule you guys have in in mind, is it?
They are continuing on. I believe they're anxious to get going and
Okay.
start construction. But again, as part of this agreement, we need these items approved and these as part of the agreement.
All right. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Item number 17, I want to set aside for a minute and go to item number 18 first. Item 17 is approve repairs to the yellow slide at the Miami pool. Item 18 is an inspection report for the Miami pool. So I want to go to the inspection report first. Don?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm Don Paddock. I'm with Paddock Enterprises at Oklahoma City. We did an inspection on the facility actually prior to last season. Partially determined problems they were having now and things that needed to be addressed and done. We gave them information on, we found some leaks that they repaired, the city repaired, which accounted for a lot of water loss problems. For if they continue to use the facility as they are now, some items that need to be addressed to keep things from deteriorating further include the wet well that basically the deepest point of the pool drains water to, and the scum gutters at the top of the pool drain water to, is real rusty and in terrible and needs to be basically sandblasted and recoated with a special material. That's an item that needs to be done fairly quick. There's a few ADA items that need to be addressed fairly quick, which have to do with drinking fountain that's ADA compliant, and also a handicap lift that meets the current requirements, which yours didn't have a headrest on it, I don't think. We did an overall overview of the whole facility, looking at problems with the whole thing. Basically, everything's out of compliance. ADA problems in all the buildings, parking lot, the pool items that are ADA pretty much have to be fixed. They should be done already, but they fixed before they open, type of deal. We had a roof that we had core samples taken on, and it's got 2 layers of felt that's soaking wet, so the roofs aren't any good on the thing. I did a pretty intensive report, and you guys have it. There's the pool report itself, the base report is like 6 or 7 pages long, and looking at the basics of things, that will tell you that. From that, if you want to look at a particular item, like there's, I think 26 pages of ADA compliance items. So that's a big issue. One other thing that needs to be addressed if they continue to use a facility for as is for a period of time is The bathhouse, you guys had some work done to support the bathhouse a few years later. You can get under, I think it's a men's restroom, and you have some piers that are under there, and it's on some footings, and basically has a backwash water opening that is like a 10-inch pipe that feeds water into this area that has washed a bunch of dirt out of it. So all these footings are getting exposed, and you've got some piping that's hanging off baling wire and things down there that need to be corrected. And those items, you know, really are pretty minimal, but correcting those items gives it a lot more life, a lot more longevity. We looked at replacing, doing a complete renovation on the whole facility. And we've included cost estimates right behind the conclusions, and I think it was like $3.8 million to renovate that facility. Replacing that facility with a newer facility that's basically much less of a facility as far as size-wise, was 2.8, and it was 3.8 to renovate that facility, I believe. Miami Pool in Miami, Oklahoma is a pretty important thing. Everybody's pretty proud of their big swimming pool, so you know, I kind of lean toward renovating the thing at some point that they decide they want to. Renovating and tearing down every building that's there and putting a new bathhouse, putting new decks around it, saving just the structure of the pool itself, and bringing everything else up to current standards and current codes and basically current criteria that needs to be met.
You said to renovate was 3.8?
Right. It's huge.
That's a big pool, biggest one in Oklahoma.
Yeah. And, you know, the new facility, I think, was 2.8. And it was a lot less in size.
10,000 something compared to 18,000
Yeah,
something.
yeah, it was half the size, basically. So, but from there, you know, with the report, the things that were needed to happen can be addressed and looked at, and it actually has some specifications on what material will fix some things on the wet well, and gave you guys some information on what needs to be done if you aren't going to all of a sudden spend a couple $1 million. So, but you know, I'd like to, if I was renovating, I'd like to renovate it, say the shell of the pool, put a zero entry from one side to the other, which got, you know, where it's like a beachfront where you can walk right down the pool, and put one bathhouse instead of that had the concession area, had covered dining area and things like that in one building and not scattered around. And another building for the filter area or the filter equipment.
So Jeff, do you have any thoughts for the short term in working on the ADA stuff prior to getting open for the season?
Yes, Your Honor. There are some of the repairs that we do need to make before we open, but we run into a compliance problem with ADA if we do too much work. Before you get to the point where you've invested so much money into it that, just like with our floodplain regulations, if you spend so much more money into a flooded property, you have to bring the whole thing into compliance. So we have to be very careful there. We originally initiated this study because when I first got here, I was told that there was some structural issues with the pool in the past. And it had been some time since we'd had those structural issues taken a look at. And that was the primary purpose behind bringing the consultant out to take a look at that. We didn't find any evidence of the structural problems still existing other than the footing issues that we talked about.
We need to protect the repairs that were made, basically.
Right. So So it was successful in that regard in the sense that we're not concerned that we've got an impending structural issue there. The ADA issue is a serious concern. The slide or the lift is a compliance issue that just about every municipality in the country is having to deal with right now because they changed the rules on what works for an approved lift and what doesn't work for an approved lift. But our most pressing concern at present is what is our plan going to be on the yellow slide as to whether we're going to attempt to put it back into operation this year or not. But we will be making some of the smaller repairs that are on the list. But the larger issues, we're going to kick that can down the road a little bit. We've got other pressing issues that we've got to address, but at some point in time, you'll probably be faced with those decisions as to how much do you reinvest back into that facility. We've, similar to the dilemma that we've been having with the Civic Center, and haven't seemed to be able to get this communicated well, and I do apologize for that, but I mean, at some point in time, you have to ask a question: is the facility that you're investing money back in worth the reinvestment of the money that you're talking about having to put into it? I mean, at what point is it no longer cost effective to do that? Those apparently are very difficult questions to ask in Miami, and I don't really have a solution for you tonight, and I don't really want to venture out on that limb tonight in that particular facility. So our plan is to look at these immediate repairs that need to be made and attempt to get the facility open for this season. And we'll bring back the bigger issues at a later time.
Okay. John, anything you want to
I'd
add?
like to make a comment. You know, you got a huge pool. That staffing is a major concern every year. You have to put 2 or 3 times the staff that you'd have to put with a much smaller pool that would take care of this community. So, you know, if you want to stick with your pool that's there, which I love just because the fact that it is the biggest pool and it's kind of a nice to be tied to it. But the cost of keeping it going, even chemically treating it, maintenance on it for 800,000 gallons of water, versus a pool that has a lot more shallow water, which shallow water is more usable water for swimmers.
Mm-hmm.
You go look at that pool during the summer and you say, well, from the 3-foot area, the 3.5-foot areas where all the people are, and they aren't out there. Well, when you have a pool that has, you know, from 0 to 3 foot, you got some area that's all used. And so you don't have as much dead space and wasted thing. But I think the smaller pool is advantageous for you guys as far as operational costs for the city, as far as maintaining just the fact that it starts out new. The bigger one is more nostalgic and kind of a nicety to have. So.
Can we get some attendance figures from last year and staffing numbers also? I'd just be curious for us to take a look at some of the points Don's making, that if you had, you know, a 10,000 square foot pool, if you could staff it with half as many people, what kind of savings would that be?
Well, Your Honor, I can give you a quick number now. I mean, this is the first municipal pool that I've seen that didn't require a massive subsidy. So you do real well on your draw from an attendance standpoint. It's well attended, and from a revenue standpoint, and keep in mind though that you're fully depreciated on this facility. I mean, you don't.
Right.
You've got a lot of sunk costs there that have been borne by future past generations. But we really allocate very little subsidy to the pool at all, which is remarkable for any municipal pool, especially one.
It's well known. It's more like a county pool than a city pool, just because everybody wants to go to it. It's so big.
As far as staffing is concerned, we hire 49?
53.
53?
Employees. That's including the concessions. And then in 2012, we had 37,800 people.
So kind of put that into perspective. We have 186 authorized full-time positions at the city. But in the summer, we add 53 just for the pool. So it is it's a big deal.
What's your attendance every day? What's an average thing?
It ranges. Some days we're packed completely out. Some days, it really.
You're at 900 people some days at one time, and
Some days, it's average probably 300-400. Just depends.
But just like with everything that can't go on forever, everything must come to an end at some point. So at some point, you're going to be facing a decision about a major reinvestment. Now, your financials may not look as attractive if you have to sink $3.9 million into the facility to keep it compliant with the law. I imagine at that point in time, we'll see a much different financial performance. But at present, and again, it's not a priority for staff this year for us to have this long-term debate. Our plans are to proceed with making the repairs that are necessary and opening this summer as business as usual.
Okay. Anything else, Don?
nothing at all. Have you all seen the photo on the front of it? I got it from James, and it's from the original Miami pool.
I haven't seen that, I don't believe.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it really is.
See that right?
Yeah, that's all I'm thinking.
I've seen it. I probably gave it to you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. If y'all guys need anything, just feel free to have James get a hold of me or anything different.
Okay. Now, back to item number 17. Approve repairs to yellow slide at Miami Municipal Pool. What were your thoughts, Neil?
Mayor, my thoughts is I'd like to table this till our next regular meeting. If you wish, they can give the report. That's up to you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what the report, but you're just recommending we're not take any action tonight. Is
Right.
that what you're thinking? Go ahead, guys.
The yellow slide was closed all of last year, and we took that opportunity to have it inspected. And found a lot of maintenance issues, and we got a cost on that. There was a few accidents, I think, but it was due to inappropriate, the riders coming down. They were using, I think, pads at one time.
Yeah, we was using pads. We actually talked to the instructor. They like to see anywhere from 13 to 50 miles an hour. They said with the pad, it would push you up past 20. And they said they don't want 20 miles per hour
So
whatsoever.
13 to 15?
13 to 15.
Sound like you said 50.
Yeah, 13 to 15. They only want the ride to be 3.4 to 5 seconds. That's
Okay.
most.
And the pads made it faster than that.
Yes, you was pushing 20.
We talked to the company. There's about 25 of those in operation. We called a couple of people that had those. Jamie talked to them. One was a municipality.
Yeah, there was Miss Keys. She was in Borger, Texas. They have a slide just like ours. They've only had it for 2 years now, though, so it's new. They've had one incident. It was an elderly lady. She went down. She did not have her feet crossed. When she got to the bottom of the pool, it hit her foot, came out, hit the side of the pool, which their slide, she said, is actually too close to the side of the pool, the way it was
The end of it.
manufactured. And it hurt her ankle. So then there was another guy, gentleman, Mr. Cole. They're with O'Banion Woods State Park in Indiana. They've had theirs for 7 years. He said ours enters into the 12-foot section. Theirs enters in at the 3-foot section. He said the only time they've had incidents is when they don't lay down with their feet crossed, hands across the chest, and when they go down setting up, they hit the bottom of the pool.
Their feet
with
hit the
their
bottom
feet.
of the pool.
And he said that's
It's
the only
3 foot.
incidents they've had.
Is that with the pads or without?
That was without the pads.
Going into 3 foot.
As ours goes into 12 foot, so we would never hit the bottom of the pool whatsoever.
We've already added more signage. We was going to individually train the lifeguards and then have a no tolerance policy for riders. I think that might have been some of the confusion in the past.
Okay. Anything else So you're recommending more signage, better training of the lifeguards, and a no tolerance policy. And
We've
the-
already put up the signage.
Okay. And then the repairs, what's the nature of the repairs that?
It was the, go ahead, Jay.
It's gonna be the start pan, and what it is this is where the start pan's leaking. It's actually leaking down on the structure, and it's causing it to rust.
Okay.
So we have to get that start pan fixed, so we can fix the rusting part of the structure.
And the cost of that is estimated to
About
be?
$9,050, I believe.
It was like almost 10,000. It was like 9,000.
How long would that take to fix? I mean, are we pinched for time? I guess.
She said if we do it now, then she could be here within the month. But she said if we don't, she said that window of opportunity is closing really fast because everybody's wanting to hurry up and schedule to get their pool open for Memorial Day. So she said if we don't do it soon, then we'll have to wait till the following year.
And when are we targeting for opening? Is it Memorial Day?
Weekend.
Which is May 26th or something
Yeah,
this
somewhere.
year?
Jamie, if the decision was made on Tuesday of next week, you had information on Wednesday morning, would you still be able to hit that window?
I think so.
I believe so.
That would be my request, we table it till, Councilman Sharwood and our city attorney's here.
Okay. Any objections to tabling it till our meeting on the 25th?
Thank you.
Okay, so since that's, I don't know if we need a motion to table that, since that's a regularly scheduled meeting. I guess we probably don't. Jeff, I'm looking at you with that question.
Not taking any action does not move the item
Automatically
over to
get
the
it.
next meeting. Tabling it officially moves it over to the next meeting. So in other words, if you took no action, there's no requirement for staff to schedule it on a date certain. If you table it, then it shows up on your next regularly scheduled meeting. And keep in mind that your workshop date is technically a regular scheduled meeting.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to table the item.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Schultz?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Okay, item number 19. They're getting easier now. Approve mayor's nomination of Tracy Delano to serve on the library board, and that term would end January 3rd of 2017. That would be my recommendation to the council.
Make a motion to approve the mayor's nomination of Tracy Delano to serve on the library board.
And a second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Schultz?
I don't think I'll vote on those.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Item number 20, other new business, if any? Any new business?
No new business, Your Honor.
Item 21, staff reports.
Have none.
Item 22, mayor and council community comments or announcements. Any announcements? We're rolling now. Item 23 was executive session, but I don't believe we need to do that, do we?
Not on my account, sir.
Okay. Well, then we are going to skip item 23, and we're going to move to item 24, approve amended employment contract of Jeff Bishop. We did take this up in executive session in the SUA meeting. As I said at the time, it's just some minor changes to phrasing in the notice period. Nothing else is changing in the contract beyond that. So do we have a motion to approve the contract?
I make a motion to approve Jeff Bishop's contract.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. Item 25, approve Scott B. Wood, attorney at law with the firm of Wood, Fool, and Wood, professional services agreement.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wood is a special counsel. Mr. Wood's background is as a law enforcement officer who got into the attorney business. Staff is requesting authorization to place Mr. Wood on a retainer. Mr. Wood would serve as a special counsel to Chief Harrelson involving various legal matters that are directly attributable to the Payne lawsuit.
Okay.
So staff is requesting authorization to retain Mr. Wood to represent the city and Chief Harrelson in those processes.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve that. Do we have a second?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Schultz?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Item 25, future agenda planning. Is there anything that we need to make sure we cover next time around that we haven't already talked about or on future agendas? Item number 27 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
And a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson?
Nice call here.
Johnson?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
All right. Oh, yeah. Tell you what.
Substitute, I've avoided it.
Well,
I don't know about him off his